Hi everyone! I'm looking a little familiar today. Welcome, one and all, to my April wrap-up. I had a very successful month this month, even with all my final exams and projects that I had to do. I managed to read 13 things this month, 4 of which were graphic novels, and my math is so bad today, 9 of which were actual books. Let's begin. The first book that I managed to finish is Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. This is a collection of feminist essays, and yeah, this was incredible. She talks about everything from herself to gender and sexuality, race and entertainment, politics, gender and race. Yeah, I had so many aha moments while I read this book, and I think the only reason I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars instead of 5 was because she spent a lot of time talking about race, and I know that can relate to feminism quite easily in terms of inequalities about women, but I felt like she only covered actual feminist equality topics 70% of the time. I mean, feminism is equality of the sexes, and I just feel like she integrated race into so much of it that it became a bit disjointed. Also, she is never really clear on her views of feminism. She seems to go back and forth within the book, and she's apologetic about that. But I never know her clear stance on things, and I would start to notice she would say one thing in one essay, and then later on in the book when I was reading it, she would say something that seemed to contradict that. So that was a little confusing. And I didn't agree with 100% of what she said. She's was talking about what a good feminist is and what a bad feminist is, and I never saw myself as a good or bad feminist, just as a feminist. I sound really nasally right now because I'm getting over a cold, I'm sorry. But yes, did I think this was worth reading? Absolutely 100%. This was fantastic. Would I recommend reading this? Yes, I would. And as stated before, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I then picked up Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. I have never read anything by her before, and I saw this on a video for Raylene from Padfoot and Prongs 07's channel about her favorite LGBT books. And she recommended this one, and I was intrigued by the cover and the premise, so I decided to read it. It was really good. Coming from somebody who's a film major like me, I loved learning about the art director's profession, which is the profession of this girl in this book. So it was a lot of behind the scenes kind of thing, and artistic direction I hadn't really thought a whole lot about before, but in this book I did. I learned so many new things, and it was awesome. So it's about a girl, and she's a lesbian, and she is still sort of hung up on her ex. And one day she's looking for this couch, and so she's going to a sale to find this couch, and she finds this old record album, and there's a letter inside, and it had belonged to a really famous old Western film star. And through that, she meets this girl, and she falls in love with this girl, and she's not sure if she feels the same way about her or if she's even homosexual as well. This book I found to be really refreshing on the relationship level, because I find so many books featuring LGBT relationships focus on the lust aspect. Sometimes it's difficult to find books that are just straight up about the relationship, and so this book was about that. It was all just casual and just people being in love, and that's the way it should be. So I really did like that aspect. The only reason I took a star off for this one was because the writing itself, I found a bit to be desired. I'm sorry, but I was 30 pages in, and I was contemplating even finishing it because I felt that the writing itself sounded kind of like it was being written by a high schooler. There was a lot of great description, but the organizing of the descriptions, I don't know, it just lacks some sophistication. All in all, though, I really enjoyed it, and as I said, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up Men Explain Things to Me by Rebecca Solnit. So this is also a book of feminist essays, and the title, Men Explain Things to Me, refers to an essay that came out a few years ago that I guess got a lot of attention. I never read it when it was widely circulated, but I read it this time, and it was really good. It was about how she was at this party, and she was talking to this guy, and he was talking over her and explaining things to her and saying, you should read this book about this particular topic that they were talking about. And her friend had to come up and say to him 3 times, she wrote that book, before he got it. And then he just sort of paused, and then he kept explaining to her. I found this to be illuminating, and it talked about a lot of the stuff that Roxane Gay talked about. And yeah, it was really good, really quick read. I think I knocked off a star for this because she started to lapse into Virginia Woolf and kind of away from the topic. Maybe I missed it, but it was really weird for me. Like, she quoted from, I think it was Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, and it made me want to read To the Lighthouse, but I felt like it kind of went off topic from the book. I could be wrong. I might have just, like, sort of lost attention and missed the point, but, like, that happens. But anyway, 4 out of 5 stars. Really, really good. I suggest you pick it up. The next book that I picked up was a reread for me, and it was Page by Page by Laura Lee Gullidge. I read this last summer and really enjoyed it. 5 out of 5 stars. It tells the story of a girl who moves to New York and away from her small town and friends and all that she's ever known. She is also an artist, but needs to find it within herself to be motivated to actually pick up her sketchbook and start drawing. And she does finally, and the artwork is great. It's just fantastic. Like, it's all symbolic and metaphorical and just wonderful. I always love this artwork, and it's really quick and fun, and I love Laura Lee Gullidge. The next book I picked up, I was so excited to read, is the graphic novel Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley. I never read the Scott Pilgrim's series. I'm not sure still if I want to read it, but I really love this. It tells the story of Katie, who is about to open up her second restaurant, and she finds that she made a mistake. One of her employees got burned by accident, and she finds this magic mushroom and is able to make a wish, eat it, fall asleep, and wake up and have the mistake be fixed. And she wakes up and the mistake has been fixed, and she actually finds more magic mushrooms. And as you can imagine, the temptation to eat them, you know, and fix all these other mistakes gets too great, and then she just starts a snowball. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, but I did. I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait for Brian Lee O'Malley's next one. I just hope it features a strong female protagonist, as it did in this one, and the artwork was wonderful too. I just loved it so much. The next book that I read was also a graphic novel, and it is called The Three Incestuous Sisters by Audrey Niffenegger. It is by the same woman who wrote The Time Traveler's Wife, and no, this is not about 3 sisters that are actually incestuous with each other. It's more of a metaphorical graphic novel, very quick, not a whole lot of text, but the artwork was amazing. I mean, if somebody looks through, they'll be like, oh, this is really simple, but if you go to the back and read the author's note about the insane printing process that it took to make these, I mean, it is just amazing. These were done with aqua tints. It's a printing process. Don't want to bore you with it, but it was beautiful, and it was really interesting and told a lot about, you know, relationships of families. My only criticism was that there wasn't more to the story, and that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. But yeah, it was really good. And the last graphic novel that I picked up this month was Through the Woods, Stories by Emily Carroll. This was like the first book in the month that I actually did not enjoy. I mean, nearly as much as I thought it would. I've been anticipating reading this for months. It's like if the Grimm brothers got together and made a graphic novel. And as awesome as that sounds, and as awesome as a lot of these tales were, I am a very easily squeamished out person. So some of these images disturbed me, and I couldn't look at them for very long. Was it spooky and creepy? Yes, it definitely was. And I did love the color combinations that they came up with. Like this one alone, like I love the red and white and black and just the icy blue injections. So yeah, some of the artwork was okay. I was attracted to it. A lot of it just freaked me out. But as I said, I'm weird like that. So I'm sure a lot of other people, most people, would read it and not be bothered by the imagery. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I usually have like several books on the go. Like I'm talking like 3 or 4. That way I can just read according to my mood. So one of the books I had on the go for probably the first half of the month was The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This is among my most favorite books of all time, and I tend to read it every year at around springtime just because the imagery of nature is just lovely. So as I said in my April TBR, it is about this girl, Mary Lennox, who has lost both of her parents to a plague, and she goes to live with her uncle in England in a very mysterious manner on the moors of Yorkshire, and she ends up going outside a lot and experiencing nature and making new friends and discovering this secret garden that has been locked up for 10 years, and she wants to make it come alive, and it's just a beautiful, wonderful story. I always give this 5 stars because It's just a 5-star book. It's just wonderful. It's just perfect. And the next book that I decided to pick up was I Was Here by Gail Forman. This is about a girl named Cody whose best friend Meg has committed suicide by drinking this very high industrial cleaner. And on the surface, it's a big mystery, like, why would she do it? And she has sort of been, like, emotionless throughout the whole grieving process and doesn't really care to figure out what it was that like actually drove her to commit suicide. But when she goes up to Meg's college town to pack up her stuff to bring it back to her parents, she starts to find these things, and it just opens up this can of worms, like this mystery for her. I found this to be really good. I thought there was a healthy amount of plot twists and turns. It wasn't a very long, I guess it's about your average Gail Forman book. I guess I would have liked it to be a little bit longer, but it has all the usual Gail Forman elements that I've come to know and love. So yeah, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely awesome. And the book after that I managed to finish was A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. I ended up listening to this on audiobook for a good part of the month. And then when I got to like the last third of it, I was just like, screw it, and sped read the last part of it. I know, this is a very like classical book in terms of children's literature, and I can understand why. It's as well love story as it was, but for me, I feel like I was introduced to it too late. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. There was no big explanation as to what it was. There was no big resolution of them defeating it. I just felt like it was really fast-paced, like, this is the way it is, suddenly this is the way it is, and yeah, I don't know. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm sorry if you disagree, but whatever. I was happy to have read it so that I can finally say that I read it, because I know tons and tons of people have read this book. And the next book that I read after that was The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. This is the first Holly Black book that I have ever read, so I really can't wait to read The Spiderwick Chronicles by her and Tony DiGiulizi, because in this book I discovered that I absolutely love her writing. So it's a paranormal standalone, and it's about this brother and sister, Hazel and Ben, and they both have their own sort of set of secrets. There is this boy with horns that has been asleep in a glass coffin for as long as they can remember, and all of a sudden he is released from the coffin, and weird things start to happen all around the town. Normally there are a few tourists who get killed each year by some tricksy fairies, but a few weird things start happening to the locals as well, and it's just turned the town upside down, and it's up to Hazel and Ben to figure out how, like, what's happening and how to fix it. I thought this book was so amazing. Once I got into it, I just flew through it in like a day, maybe 2 days tops. I loved it so much. I loved the characters, I loved the plot twists and the resolution, and it was just fantastic. This was also the right amount of creepy for me. Like, you should watch I'm going to link the book trailer down below, and if the book trailer doesn't make you want to read it, I don't know what will. I ended up having to rewatch the book trailer halfway through just because, like, I had the rhyme from the book trailer and in the book in my head, and I was just playing it over and over in my head, and it was just a deliciously creepy feeling. And the second last book that I finished reading was The Miserable Mill by Lemony Snicket. This is book 4 in the Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, and in this episode, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny go to work at Lucky Smells Lumber Mill. It's a very unfortunate situation indeed. In case I forgot to say it, I gave The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black 5 stars. Just in case I forgot. But yeah, I gave The Miserable Mill 3 stars because I thought it was just kind of weird that for the first 2/3 or so of the book, Count Olaf doesn't make an appearance. It just seemed to go on a bit about, like, the unfortunate, like, events of the day for the Baudelaires day after day. I'm still really enjoying the series and can't wait for it to continue, and I think I mentioned in my Goodreads review that from here on out I literally do not remember almost like anything about what happens in the rest of the series. I know that in the next book we are going to meet the Quagmire triplets, and they befriend the Baudelaires, but that is literally all that I remember for the rest of the series, and so yeah, I'm really excited about that. And the last book that I managed to get through this month was Walt Disney's Bambi, the Story and the Film by Ollie Johnston and Frank Thomas. Bambi is my favorite Disney film, just with all of its elements, the story and the animation, the artwork is mind-blowing. And I knew a fair amount about this film already, but when I found out that two of my favorite animators had actually written a book about the film's making, I just had to get it. So I took it out of the library, and I managed to learn quite a bit of new stuff that I didn't already know. And that's always nice to have happen. So it was really enjoyable to get the backstory on a lot of things, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. There you have it. Those are the 13 books that I got through this month. Let me know in the comments below if you have read any of the books and if you agree or disagree with my opinions on them. Also tell me what books you managed to get through this month. But that is all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I shall see you soon with my May TBR. Gonna be huge. Bye, everyone.